I'm Diane Austin. I am the CEO and co-founder of Coils to Locs. And Coils to Locs is very well positioned to disrupt a healthcare disparity that I discovered as a cancer patient. And that is the lack of these coily, highly textured wigs that can be purchased with health insurance at cancer center hospitals, at medical hair loss salons. And, this business was just built on my experience when I learned that I had breast cancer and that chemotherapy would just take all of my hair. My doctor said, if you want a wig, I can write a wig prescription for you. And I was like, yes, I want a wig. And I know everyone doesn't want a wig, but I wanted a wig because I couldn't even imagine being without hair. It just seemed inconceivable to me. And he gave me this wig and he, educated me on the fact that there are hospitals locally, and I had my treatment in Boston and across the country that service women who are suffering with medical hair loss, and that you could go to these hospitals and get wigs. Many have retail stores set up, and that's what I did, armed with my wig prescription for cranial prosthesis and confirmation that health insurance would cover the cost of the wigs, my health insurance. I started going to different cancer center boutiques in the Boston area at major hospitals, and none of these hospitals sold tightly coiled wigs. They only sold straight-haired wigs. And that was very frustrating for me. I just couldn't even imagine why that could be in 2015. And the business was just born based on my wanting to solve a problem. Once I recognized, after Pamela and I did some research while I was in the middle of chemotherapy, it was something to keep me focused. I asked Pamela, would you help me with this? I think I want to address this problem. And we started calling hospitals across the country, major hospitals that had these retail stores, and none of them sold these coily, curly wigs. And that just really, that was upsetting to me. And then I decided, as I always say, I wanted to turn lemons into lemonade and really try to solve this issue because no one was doing it. And that's how the business was born. And we started in late 2019. And we're in this proof of concept stage, and we're about to move into a full launch. We have partnerships with about 12 to 13 hospitals and medical salons as part of this proof of concept stage. There's actually 3 hospitals just in the last week and a half, or actually medical hair loss salons that are partnering with us. And so we're going to add to that number, but we're ready to take this business to the next level. We know that there's a need. We know that because of the women who are reaching out to us, just asking us, when are we going to be able to get your wigs, or where can we get them? And so this launch is really going to help us to move to the next level. What we have planned is to do a full expansion across the country into some very targeted hospitals that we've identified, where there is a large number of population of Black women. We're going to start there. We're also launching an e-commerce site where we're going to be selling direct to consumer in November with a line of wigs that is different than the line of wigs that we sell for the hospitals or to the hospitals, but that are just as beautiful as the one Pamela is wearing, the Kiki wig. So that's a little bit about me in the business. I'd like to turn it over to Pamela, and I won't be a camera hog or a Zoom hog. If I can go
That's
on and
funny.
on.
She can. Well, and that's only because she and I are both passionate about, what we're doing and how we're serving women in this space. But I am, as Diane said, I am Pamela Shattuck. I am Diane's sister, and I am co-founder and COO of Coils to Locs. And yeah, just to piggyback on what Diane was saying in terms of, launching the e-commerce site and all of that, and it being coming out of the response that we've been getting from so many women who aren't or can't use the cancer space. So women who have autoimmune diseases like lupus, who are losing their hair because of medication, and so many other reasons, medical and non-medical, that women lose their hair. And then just having the ability with the e-commerce site to be able to sell direct to consumer to women who just want wigs for aesthetic reasons, because I'm one of those women, although I do have hair loss as well. I have traction alopecia. But I want to speak to you guys from the perspective of our social impact mission, and how we want to support Black and Brown women in the way that we do, and how we sort of got involved very early on to grow this business. And starting out, we participated in a lot of business incubators. We wanted to make sure that we, rolled out and launched the correct way. So before we even, put our shingle out, we participated in local incubators like TLE Consulting here in Boston, others in between, which for some reason are escaping me. You can throw them in later, Diane. Roxbury Innovation Center.
Inner City Capital Connections.
Exactly. All the way through to the most recent one, which is the Halcyon, which some of you may know about, where I participated in a residency fellowship in DC for 5 months. And all of those things gave us and continue to give us the foundation and the support, ongoing support with a lot of them in terms of how to navigate and scale a successful business. We also learned in those spaces all the ways that we could raise money. And we've been successful in raising a number of grants, so a lot of non-dilutive funding. But we were also, it was shared with us all of the ways that we could raise money. And we happened upon Wefunder as a platform, which we got instantly excited about. We weren't even sure at the time that we wanted to go in that direction, but once we sat down with Wefunder, we were like, this is a no-brainer. It gives us the opportunity to, I would say it's a great fit because it gives us the opportunity for not only for us to be successful, but to open it up for other people to have shares in our company and equity in our company. People like you, family, friends, our broader community, and others to own shares in the company, so that our success is a win-win, not just for us, but again, for the community at large. So that's a little bit about how we've been navigating entrepreneurship, and how we are using Wefunder as a platform to raise money. And so I guess on that note, I can turn it over to Jeff to speak a little bit more about from the Wefunder perspective.
Hi, nice to meet you all here today. I am not permanently a member of the Coils to Locs team, although after working with these two fine ladies for the last couple of months, I wouldn't shy upon that. They're wonderful humans who are very passionate in this space, and I'm particularly stoked on their dedication to the work that they're doing, with Dianne quitting her full-time job and coming on full-time to run this thing. I think is pretty amazing. Sorry if I stole any thunder, Dianne, if you're
okay. I think some people on this call, I'm like looking at you, Barnett, know how I struggled with that. Stacy, you know as well how I struggled, but I finally took the leap.
I know that wasn't easy. It never is for anybody, but that certainly shows your dedication to this. So I've had just such a pleasure working with these ladies. Personally, I live down here in Virginia. I got 2 little girls, and my wife is a stay-at-home mom now with the girls, and runs a small bookkeeping firm called Balanced Bookkeeping. And I've been working in this space working with small businesses, raising capital for a couple of years now, particularly through the lens of community rounds. And so hopefully I can provide for you over the next several minutes an idea of what is a community round, where did it come from, what does that mean for you as you invest in a company like Coils to Locs, how do you make money, and the such. So broadly, community rounds, they are another term for a community round is equity crowdfunding. In fact, when the space was originally created, it was called equity crowdfunding. And that may be more trigger more closely to how you may understand this, because a lot of you probably know what Kickstarter or Indiegogo is, where one can give $100 or $200 or $500 to a company, and in return they get a product or they get a service, or maybe if you give a lot of money, you get to have dinner with the founder as well or something, right? This community rounds is similar, but different in that instead of just giving money and getting an overpriced product in return, what you have instead is you're actually literally investing in that company. And in return, you are getting an ownership stake in that company. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the specifics around that. But if we back up as to why are you kind of just hearing about this now, but you've heard of Kickstarter for 10 years, the reasoning is that for most of the 20th century and part of the 21st century, it was actually illegal for most Americans, 93% of us, to invest in private companies, which is pretty disappointing because if we're being honest, the investing in private companies, i.e. startups, is literally the #1 wealth building tool for all of the ultra rich. A lot of these folks who are exceedingly wealthy, of course, they invest in the stock market. And of course, some of them were CEOs and CFOs and the jazz and made good salaries. But if you look at where they made the vast majority of their wealth, every single one of them, it was all from owning either a good chunk in a startup that they had created or someone in their past, owning a share in a company, and then that company being a big success. And I can talk a little bit again about why do you make so much? Why do you have the potential to make so much more money investing in startups than you do actually in the market? So for a long time, it was illegal. Only 7% of Americans, the ultra wealthy, they're called accredited investors, were able to invest in startups. And then in 2012, as part of the Jobs Act, this all became a reality. And naturally, with the government, it takes them a little bit of a long time to get things done. It actually took 4 more years after that for them to implement this. So it wasn't possible until 2016. This actually became a reality. So it's only been around for 6 years. So naturally, a lot of folks this is their sort of probably your first interaction with a community round. As I mentioned, this is not rewards crowdfunding. It is instead of you giving money for a reward or a product, you're giving money in return for investment in a company. Let's talk about private companies versus public companies, right? So this is investing in a private company. When you invest in a public company, that's you going on your Charles Schwab or your Fidelity account or your Acorns account and picking a cool company that is trading on the stock market and then putting some money into them, investing into them. And a lot of you may not do that, and you may just have a financial advisor or 401k that's managed by your company that you're blind to that where your money goes, but that's what's happening with your money as well. It's being invested into public companies, right? Public companies are companies who are, of course, held by the public, and naturally private companies are held privately. One of the biggest differences between a private company and a public company is that public companies have stricter public companies, I don't know if I just said it, public companies have stricter financial reporting requirements than private companies do. So not that any of us pay attention to this stuff for the most place, but a public company trading the stock market will every quarter have to show a lot of their top line financials and talk about where they're going as an organization and what challenges they faced in the past quarter as to why their company did or did not do very, very well. Whereas a private company has the ability to be completely secretive as to about any of that stuff. You don't have to show your financials to anyone. You don't have to tell anybody what your next step is, what your next plan is. You can be quietly secret about everything that you do. Now, one caveat to that is when you do raise a community round, like Dianne and Pamela are here, is that if you invest in Coils to Locs 1 year from now, they will have to present their financials again to you. And so you will be able to see a year out, how did they do over this last year, and get an idea of what's up in there. And they're wonderful humans and smart people who want to engage you all in their community as well. So they'll probably be sending you quarterly updates, just as you would get actually if you invested in directly into a public company as well. So what do you look for when you invest in a private company versus a public company? To be honest, a lot of the same stuff that you look for when you invest in a public company. You're mostly going to be trying to look at the financials and the market potential. But I say this with a little bit of an asterisk, because I know very few individuals, even a lot of my good friends who are financial advisors, who actually do a lot of digging into a company's financials, and who actually have a keen understanding of a public company's, potential market. It's very difficult for any of us. It's not out of a lack of trying. It's just that it's nearly impossible for, unless you are a professional investor and this is all that you do, and even still, you still probably have very small industries that you focus on investing in, because to understand the true potential of a company across all the different market segments is extremely, extremely difficult. It's very hard to do. You need to truly be up on all the ins and outs of that space. So if I'm giving you advice on what you should be looking for when deciding to invest in a company, yes, you should be looking at the financials. Yes, you should be looking at the market and the market potential for that company. But understand that we don't do that when we invest in public companies often. And most folks do not end up making their investment decisions actually based on that stuff. If you have the capability to do that, if you know how to read financials and you do know a little bit about the market, then I highly advise you to dig into that stuff. So here are some things that all of us who aren't savvy investors or directly in the scene, the Coils to Locs scene, can understand about whether this is a good investment opportunity. Team and traction. So you can look at these two things, and oftentimes we do look at these two things when we're investing in public companies. Oftentimes, we think about investing in a public company, we kind of go, oh, wow, yeah, like I've seen this company everywhere, or they seem to be everywhere. I really like the marketing that they're doing. They're very creative, they're very smart, right? And you kind of get attracted to the work that they're doing, right? You could relate that to traction. That's us kind of connecting with the traction that they're creating as a company. Or you may be pretty stoked and you follow the founder on Twitter and you're pretty excited about the way that founder talks and explains things and conducts him or herself. And in that case, you may be inclined to make an investment decision based upon the team. Another way in which you may do that for a public company is somebody you might keep hearing from folks that they're invested in Amazon, and you should be invested in Amazon too. And so you go ahead and invest Amazon, right? That's just that sort of the momentum feel of investing in things that other people are investing into. All three of those things equate to investing in a private company like Coils to Locs as well. So you would look at the team. What's their background look like? Do they seem like they could understand this space? How do they present themselves? Do they seem organized? Does the pitch and the campaign feel like it was well put together and they really know what they're talking about and they're able to go out and attack that? And then from a traction standpoint, does it seem like they've been able to accomplish a fair amount, mostly based upon the money that they've raised so far? Right? I often look at companies, how much money have they raised so far and how much have they been able to accomplish? Of course, this can start to get a little complicated if you don't have a comparison point to compare that to other companies, but all of us have enough intuition to understand that if I had raised $200,000, could I have accomplished X, Y, and Z? We can have a feel for that. So that's a good way to think about things. Overall, just a pointer. And of course, I should put a caveat in here as well. Everyone listening to this should always just make an investment opportunity or make an investment after they've talked to their financial advisor. Put on your big boy pants and talk to folks before you make a decision like this. But nonetheless, if I were to give one piece of advice when investing in young startups, is that execution means a lot more than ideas. So if you think this team can execute on the idea, then that means it's a good opportunity for you potentially. So here's the last thing that I'll cover, and then we can open up to questions. Is how do you make money? How do you make money in investing in a private company? So investing in a public company, right? We go out, we put money into the stock market today on October 20th at with 12:27 Eastern time, and then all of a sudden Apple goes, we're deciding to get out of the Apple computers game, and we're going to get into selling apples. And then this, the stock plummets, and you can go at 12:37. You can go out and try and take your money out as well, right? Your money is liquid in the stock market. You can put it in and take it out mostly as often as you like. And of course, that's broadly speaking, but for the most part, you can take your money in and out. When you invest in, that's called liquidity. When you invest in a private company, your money is not liquid. So you invest in a company like Coils, your expectation is that that money is invested in that company until there is a liquidity event in the future. And the liquidity of the event looks something like Coils goes public, so they start trading on the stock exchange. More likely in a scenario like this, where it's more of a niche product, they're going to be purchased by somebody, or they will merge with another company who does something similar, right? And in these cases, then that will create an opportunity for liquidity for all the investors. Whoever purchases them, or whatever number they go public at, will be the value at which that company is valued. And then we kind of take the difference between what it's valued at then and what you invested it at and now, and then you make the multiple of that on your money. And I can go through an example of that in a second, but that's the case. The biggest thing to think about is your money is not liquid in this situation. So just like any investment opportunity, you should never invest more money than you have the ability to lose, right? I wouldn't put $10,000 in Apple if I didn't have the ability to lose $10,000 in Apple. As we've seen in the stock market, you're probably not going to lose all 10,000 investing in the stock market, because again, it's liquid and you have the ability to take it in and out, but your money is surely not set to grow all the time in the stock market. But the same thing is here in startups, is that you could lose everything, or you could make a lot of money in the long run. So let me give you an example here as to what that means. How can you make more money? So again, we think about investing in a public company. Usually you're thinking about making maybe a 2x return on your money in 10 to 20 years. So if you invest $10,000 in Apple, you'll hope that someday that $10,000, maybe 10, 20 years from now, will be worth $20,000 without you doing anything, right? That's the wonderful thing about investing in the stock market. If you make decent choices and you leave it in there for a long enough period of time, it should grow for you. But you're never going to expect that if you invest in Apple, $10,000, that $10,000 10 years from now is going to be worth $100,000. Of course, if you make a very savvy, I would say lucky, investment decision on the public market, your $10,000 could turn into $100,000 in 10 years for sure. But that means you got very lucky. And for the most part, the way that the market grows, maybe we're looking at a 2x return over that point in time. With a private company, because they're starting so earlier in their stage, and the valuation in which you're getting in at of the company is so low versus what they're going to sell for someday, or get acquired for someday, or go public for someday. Basically what the ability they have to grow into. Think about it, this is like investing in a 7-year-old rather than investing in an 18-year-old, which would be like investing in the public market. The ability for growth is so much more from a 7-year-old than it is investing in an 18-year-old. So you have the ability, you have the chance to make multiples on your money. In fact, a lot of people try to invest in companies at this very early stage and try to make 10, 20x their money over a course of time with these companies. Now, of course, again, on the flip side is if you invest in a 7-year-old, you have a much more of a chance that your money is kind of a crapshoot, because you don't really know what that person is. They're 7 years old. Versus if you invest in an 18-year-old, you've got a little bit more of an idea of who that person is. The same thing, public markets and private markets, right? We understand a little bit more about the stability that Apple has versus the stability that Coils Locs has, and less things can rattle Apple than can rattle Coils Locs. So you have the ability to lose all your money as well. So let me example of how this could play out, and then we'll open up to some questions. So we're not supposed to use here examples of that are, so we're not supposed to say the terms of the deal. So I'm not supposed to talk about what Coils Locs is actually raising at, their valuation they're raising at. You all will be able to see that when we share the campaign link at the end of this conversation. And you can see all of that information right on that campaign page. But what I am going to give you is an example using different numbers, and then you can do that math yourself. So Susan's VR company, for example, Susan's VR company, you're thinking about investing in them. They're raising $1 million at a $10 million valuation cap, which means essentially they're giving away 10% of their company, 1 million into 10 million. If you go ahead and you decide to invest $1,000 in Susan's VR company, that means that you're essentially going to own about 0.1% of the company. 1,000 into 10 million, right? But your ownership stake is far less important than the potential multiple on return for your money. So that's the thing that you really need to focus on, as the potential for multiple on return. Who cares if you own 0.01% or 1%? It doesn't matter. It's just how much money can you possibly make. So the hope is that Susan's VR company maybe sells for $250 million someday. I'll give you an example here, thinking about VR companies, right? We think some of us, if you're not in business every day, you think about a $250 million, like, God, it's a lot of money. Can Susan's VR company really sell for $250 million? Well, let's think about this for a second. We think about some companies that aren't like, of course, there's Facebook and Walmart and Google and McDonald's and Apple, these titans of industry that are worth billions and billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars, right? But let's think about these companies that we maybe know that are like great companies, but they only have, a few different product lines. And, maybe we don't think that they're that special. Like think about Chewy, for example. They're worth, their market cap is 16 billion. HubSpot CRM, their market cap is 14 billion. Peloton, relatively new and kind of a slim line of offerings and pretty particular on who they can tap into. They were $3 billion, right? SurveyMonkey's worth $3 billion. These guys are big companies, but not these like massive giants that we think of. They're still worth the billions of dollars. So we think it's worth it. Potentially Susan's VR company, given where this can go, could be worth $250 million. Well, it just so happens that Susan does actually sell the company someday for $250 million. That would mean a 25 times return on your money. Basically, you came in at 10 million. They sold for 250 million. That's 25 times. So you're going to make in that $1,000, you turn that $1,000 into $25,000 versus if you invested that in the market over a similar period of time, then you'd probably be looking at maybe $1,700 or $2,000, maybe $3,000 if you got lucky, right? So the potential for return is much higher. Again, I want to say the potential for loss is much greater as well, right? Because they're an earlier stage company, but the potential for return is much higher as well. Now, of course, there are a lot of other factors at play here, but that's the general gist. I'll open up to questions now, and you can ask questions to, both Pamela and Dianne, and I just ask that maybe we keep the questions to a little less specific, as in we're not going to talk about, the financials of the company right now on this phone call, although Dianne and Pamela would be happy to have a one-on-one conversation about those things, and those will actually be posted to the Wefunder page over the next couple of weeks as well. But questions about maybe where they plan to take the company are good questions, or you're welcome to ask me some questions about things that I've just talked about and what it means to invest in a private company.
Or you may not have any questions.
Or we don't have any questions.
I have questions.
I know, Dana, you have questions.
No, but only because, my mom and I, we would have invested in y'all anyway because we love you. But, and I did want to, I'd asked yesterday about when you open it up, I will definitely, send it out to the people that I know who will likely ask me questions about where you all will be taking the company, like what your future plans are. And so I am interested in that.
Sure. So we have a few things on our agenda over the next 1 to 2 years. One is, and I'll not in any particular order, but we are going to be adding augmented reality to the website so that women can try on wigs virtually. We do want to expand our wigs beyond women and be able to provide wigs for both children and men as well, because there's a lack of wigs, of culturally sensitive wigs in that space as well. And we do get inquiries in regards to that. We will be adding product lines to our offerings. So private label, Coils, Locs, private label, wig shampoos, conditioners, scalp oils, scarves and turbans as well. We want to look at bringing wig manufacturing here to the US. That's a huge thing for us. We want more control over the wig making process, and we want to bring jobs to the US. So what we're doing now is we're working with actually some student consultants at Georgetown University who are looking at our ask, which is there technology that can be created to help create these wigs, mass produce these wigs, and what would that cost? So those are some of the things that we're looking at over the next, like I would say, 1 to 3 years. Some will happen more of those things will happen more immediately than others.
Yes. And in addition to that, and I'm sorry, I don't know if you were finished.
I was done.
Okay, I can usually tell because we're sisters, and I can piggyback off of that. But but in addition to that, we are also looking to expand globally. We're already in talks with Canada, so we're just waiting on a few things to pull the trigger on that. Their healthcare system across the Canada Health Network. Which seems to be one big, huge system that we looking to roll out within the next 6 to 12 months globally with Canada. We also have the Massachusetts Export Center working with us on, have already done preliminary market research on the global market for us, where we would be successful, where those target markets are globally, so that we can begin to implement that plan, and they're working closely with us to help us do that.
It's a great question.
Yeah, I do actually have a question, or maybe a couple of questions. One, the intro was really great. Do you have a tear sheet or a couple of paragraphs that you could distribute, so when I reach out to other folks that I know who may have interest in this, I have that great content to be able to share with them?
Absolutely, we can definitely pull that together for you. And even if it's, I don't know if it's helpful to even have an actual snippet of the intro to this video as well. I don't know what will, if a combination of both, but we can get you what you need for sure.
Sure. No, I'd be happy to do that. That way I can use your words, and I really admit I'd probably mangle them I got done with it. So I'd much rather have that. That's terrific. Good.
Nice.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Of course I do. Okay, so this is a question for you, Jeff. And it has to do with like the amount of money that makes sense to invest. I mean, I know, people are going to invest what they can invest. This is new to me. And I want to be as supportive as I possibly can. But what is like the average amount that people tend to invest in private companies?
Very good question as well. It's not a wonderful answer to this. It's very individual dependent. It really should relate more to your comfortability with investing in general than the fact that this is a private company versus a public company. I'll say that I think when we look out probably 10 years from right now, a lot of folks will have a much higher percentage of their portfolios diversified into their investment portfolios diversified into private companies than is currently the case. But it's only because right now the fact that this is just also very new. It makes kind of you talk to any financial advisor, it doesn't make any particular sense to have 100% or 99% of your portfolio in public companies and 0 to 1% of your portfolio in private companies. So what I leave that with you is never invest any more money than you can afford to lose, of course. But as you're going out and investing the money that you already plan to invest anyways, you can think about this just as a diversification of that money, right? So if I have absolutely no idea what your personal income level is, so you know, if you plan to invest you know, an additional $10,000 over the next quarter into you know, the public markets, then maybe you just take this quarter and you put it into private companies, right? If it's $1,000, then maybe you put $1,000 into private companies. That would be a smart move. Another a thing to maybe point out with this is that one of what I said how you have the possibility to lose all of your money investing in private companies, and one way to mitigate that more is professional investors who invest in private companies oftentimes will invest across multiple private companies, right? Not just one private company. So they may say like, okay, I'm going to take my biggest bet on this company, but then I'm also going to take some smaller bites and bets on these other companies, so that I can sort of play the game of, if one company fails, I'll know that my multiple return on another company will cover that fail. That's usually more particular if you're investing larger sums of money, of course, but the theory makes sense across any amount of money you're investing.
So as a quick follow-up on that, if I invest, well, what's the open time period for investing? In other words, if I invest X amount now, can I come in at a later stage during this fund round, during this initial round, during the community raise round?
Totally.
You know, if I see different investments I have coming in, and I don't want to, you know, I can't or don't want to put it all in now, but I can put it over time. Is that?
Yeah, you could. I mean, so you could. There's a couple things. So if you wanted to, Locs is probably going to keep their campaign open through the end of the year, is my guess. Maybe into early the next year. Much of the effort towards the campaign will be over the next few weeks. And is the potential that we may end up closing it, honestly, over the next couple of weeks, if success is good enough. There's no reason to keep it open, you know, to gain another $10,000 if we can close it up, move on with our lives. So we'll see how the next few weeks goes, and if it goes really well, we'll just close it up. So my first recommendation is, assuming how much money you would like to invest, just invest all of that now. But if you wanted to, you could invest $100 today, and then you could invest, you could change that to 2,000 a week from now, and you could change it to 10,000 a week from then. You could change it back down to 5 a week after that. So long as the campaign is open, you can change as much as you care to.
Got it. That's helpful. Thank you.
Is there a target amount for the campaign?
Yes.
There is, yep, it's 250,000.
Yeah, so once we reach 250, we will definitely stop. And if we reach that in the next 2 weeks, then the campaign is over. If we don't reach that in the next few weeks, then like Jeff said, we'll, you know, probably keep the campaign open and see what happens from there.
Can I call you privately and find out if you're close?
Oh, you can see it right on the page now. So after this campaign, after this webinar, actually the site is officially live, and Dianne and Pamela will start to share this out with a much larger community, and you all are welcome to as well, and appreciated to as well.
Okay.
And if you go on the page, you'll see actually the dollar value as it starts increasing now, which is exciting.
Yeah. You can check every day. You can check every 10 minutes.
Right.
You can check.
And you know, the expectation here is that, and you can see this all in the campaign as well, but Pamela and Dianne are prepared to have a successful year and a half ahead without hitting that 250 number. But if they hit the 250 number, then they can be ensured to have a little bit longer runway towards that 1.5 to 2 years mark, and be able to accomplish a lot more. So it doesn't have to hit that number, but that's of course the goal which is being shot for.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that will go live, Jeff, as soon as this call
Yeah, I
is.
mean, it's live right now. Yeah,
It's live as of noon.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, good. Because I know that today was sort of the whatever for family and friends, but you know, my mom and I were just talking about like investing more money. We were just trying to make it for this particular deadline. So it would be great to kind of know where you are so we can sort of figure that out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The pre-October 20th date was for obviously a private raise to get friends and family in before anyone else. Because who knows, we could launch at noon today, and by the end of the day, maybe we have 250,000, and you didn't get an opportunity to get in. So, you know, we wanted to make sure friends and family in our close community, they were able to get in before we officially launched. But yeah, you can, as Jeff said, go in every day. You can check and see where we are, and obviously, you can call us. You have our number. So
One of the things I love about Pamela is her extreme optimism. It's wonderful. Maybe 250K today. We'll see.
By the end of the day today.
No.
Why not?
I have all the confidence that you all will be successful in this, and I just want to make sure, because I got to pay for my child to go to college. Just saying.
And we would like to help you do that. So yes.
I have my grandson that needs to go to college.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Well, it's that you guys brought up a good point, because when I was talking before, I did neglect to say that in most cases, private companies will have that liquidity event in which your money becomes liquid somewhere between 3 to 7 years after investing in a company at this stage. So yeah, so again, like if you're investing in a company at this kind of this early, moving out of testing out the product into actually spreading the product across the market, and not a lot of people know about it this early stage. Usually you're looking 3 years if they really crush it and maybe it's an early sale for a lower amount of money, or 7 years if it's more of a slow roll, or they really grow this thing for quite a long time until getting acquired, but somewhere in that range.
Yeah, well, I got about 10 years, y'all. So
I was gonna say, does that meet your timeline, Dana? I don't know.
No, I would give you all the money anyway.
Oh, I know, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Family rocks.
Anybody have any more thoughts, questions?
Jeff, actually, one for you. What other companies have you done raises for?
Oh, if you don't mind, I'd be thrilled to. I mean, I'm happy to.
We can talk about it offline. I don't want to.
Yeah, happy to connect with you offline.
Yeah. Let's Pamela or Diane can connect.
We can connect.
Yeah, connect us.
Absolutely.
That'd be great.
More and
It'd be awesome.
Great.
I'd love
Thank
to.
you. I appreciate that.
100%.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I should give just like at the end of those drug commercials online, I have to give an SEC legal disclosure here, because the team at Coils Locs is still in this place we call testing the waters, which is to say that they haven't filed a Form C yet, which means they haven't showed their financials to the government yet. So until that time, I should let everyone know that we are testing the waters to gauge investor interest in an offering under regulation crowdfunding. No money or other considerations being solicited. If sent, it will not be accepted. No offer to buy securities will be accepted. No part of the purchase price will be received until a Form C is filed, and only through Wefunder's platform. Any indication of interest involves no obligation or commitment of any kind. Thank you.
Well
Where's
done.
the part that I'm gonna gain weight and like?
Wait, what did you say?
I said, where's the part where I'm gonna gain weight or?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. All the side effects. I forgot about the side effects one. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Love it. Well, it was very nice to meet all of you. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, everyone. We
Thanks,
appreciate
everyone.
it.
Good to see
All
everybody.
of you.
All
Thank
right.
you so
See you
much.
later.
All right.